Hey, what's up you guys? Today I'm talking about my mid-year statistics for 2022. Throughout the year I keep a spreadsheet and I update it every single time I finish a book with all sorts of different statistics, and I like to have a little check-in halfway through the year and see if there's any patterns forming, anything I want to switch up, and also just see if I'm achieving my goals, which this year my goals were pretty loose. I pretty much was only aiming to keep reading from a variety of different countries, preferably keep like my American authors to around like the 30% mark, and then also to read 12 Scottish authors throughout the year and to read 12 self-published books. And I think that's my only main goals. There's other things I like to try and have a little look at, but those were like the three things that were kind of set in stone. So we will find out how I did. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and please subscribe. Any thoughts, leave them in the comments down below, and let's get started. So before we get into any charts, I first want to talk about a couple of little easy statistics. So the oldest book that I have read so far this year is Fathers and Sons by Ivan Turgenev. I think that's how you pronounce it. It was a Russian name and I forgot until right now that I hadn't looked it up. And it is from 1862, and I did enjoy this. However, I haven't really thought about it since I read it. So that kind of says it all. It was about like the drama between generations of men in Russia. So it was kind of interesting. And then the newest book I read is The Black Dog by Kevin Bridges, and this comes out in 2022 and it's not even out yet. I read this as an ARC off NetGalley, and it is a Scottish kind of contemporary book and I really loved it. So if you are on NetGalley, I would highly recommend going and checking it out because you can get it for free right now and it was so good. The shortest book I've read so far this year was called All the Families in My Town, and this was 32 pages, and this was actually a children's picture book, which is not something I would ever typically pick up or count on Goodreads. However, I wanted to write a review on it because I got it off of NetGalley again, and it was so cute. It was so vibrant and colourful. The art was like some of my favourite like art I've seen in a book like in a long time. And so I wanted to write a review on it. I was like, you know what? I'll count it. And then the longest book I read was Red Comet, The Life of Sylvia Plath, and that was by Heather Clark, and it was around 1,200 pages. However, about 200 of those were like references and a bibliography. So the actual text I read was about 1,000 pages, which is still a lot and is definitely still the biggest book that I have read so far this year. If you have been on my channel for a while, you will know that the only charts I really understand are pie charts. I tried to mix up last year and it just did not work. I got very confused. So I just stick to pie charts. They're nice and easy because I cannot do maths. So for every single statistic, I have the pie chart with like the number of books, which I read exactly 60 books this year so far, and then the percentage. So it will flip between the two. But the very first thing I'm going to talk about is my star ratings. So this year has been really good. As you can see, I have 4 books with no rating, which is like poetry books. I don't give ratings to poetry. I have 1 book that was 2 stars, 16 that was 3 stars, 24 that was 4 stars, and 15 books that were 5 stars. So obviously I am having quite good luck with my books this year, and I think it's just because I am being quite safe in my picks. I haven't really been going out my comfort zone that much. I've been kind of going for stuff that I know I'm going to love, just because I have been feeling a little bit slumpy for the most part, and you know, as you'll see later on, I just haven't been reading as much as I have in previous years. I mean, 60 books is still a lot, obviously, but I don't know, it's just been a lot of audiobooks and stuff, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Next, here we are. So the format of books that I read this year so far, we have 14 audiobooks, 8 ebooks, and 38 physical books. And this is a big jump in audiobooks compared to before, I'm pretty sure. I feel like I'm reading more audiobooks than ever. Obviously, I could go back and compare to the previous years properly, but just I feel like in my heart, I'm like, okay, I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks recently, but I don't have an issue with that. Like, I actually really enjoy audiobooks now. Took me a while to get into them at first. There's certain genres like fantasy I wouldn't really do audiobooks for, but contemporary and stuff like that, I'm all about audiobooks these days. So they are making up 23.3% of my reading, which is almost a quarter. Honestly, I expected it to be a little bit more, but yeah, I'm just really an audiobook gal these days. Okay, next we have my page counts. So as you can see, the majority of my books are in the kind of 200 to 400 page range, and that is not a surprise to me at all. That's always been my usual. I do prefer shorter books for the most part. And I used to get longer ones a lot from adult fantasy. However, I really haven't been reading adult fantasy at all this year. We'll get to my genres later, but the fantasy I have been reading is more YA, and I just haven't been into like those big chunky adult fantasy books. I just haven't been able to do them. Like, as I've said, I'm more into audiobooks, and when I do audiobooks, I'm more into contemporary, so I keep jumping ahead in all my statistics, but yeah, that is pretty much how things are going. Yeah, like way over half my books, oh sorry, way basically like 3/4 of my books are below 400 pages. Next we have one which is another pretty big change for me. I used to be all about the classics. That was kind of like what I built my channel on, was reading classics for the most part. And this year that's not really been happening. So as you can see, 2 books I read were from the 1800s, 4 were from the 1900 to 1949, 14 from 1950 to 1999, and then again almost 3/4 of my books have been since the year 2000, and a large chunk of them were in the last 2 years. And that is, pretty surprising, I think. I don't know. When I actually think about it, I'm like, yeah, I haven't been reading many classics, but I just, in my head, I'm like such a classics reader. But I guess this year, I just haven't really been feeling them. I don't know why. I think, like I said earlier, I've just been feeling a little bit more slumpy with my reading and stuff. So I just wanted like easy books that I know I'll get through pretty quickly. And classics are just not that. Like, even classics I really enjoy take a while normally to read, just because they're a bit more dense, they're a bit more intellectual. They just take a little bit longer to read. So I really haven't been going for classics this year, and I would like to change that in the second half of the year if I can. I don't know if that's going to be possible because of like my life situation coming up in the next like couple months, but I don't know. It's worth a try. I think what's a good thing about classics though is that a lot of classic audiobooks are free with Kindle Unlimited. There's pretty much always, like, any classic you look up, a free audiobook for it. So I don't know. That should be something like I lean towards in the second half of this year. If we go to the kind of age rankings of the books that I've been reading, this is no surprise at all. 41 of them are adult, which is a total of 68%. And then we have 2 children's books, 3 middle grade and 14 young adult. I do enjoy young adult, I enjoy middle grade and the occasional children's, although I have to say the children's one, I think it's one of them is that picture book, which I never realised that's what it was at first. And then the second one is Peter Pan, which is a classic, which now I would not say children would read. I'd say is more young adult level at the least. But anyway, yeah, I just prefer adult books. I'm an adult. I do like young adult. I like the drama and like the quick, fast pacedness of young adult, but overall I am more drawn towards adult books. Then finally we have my genre breakdown, and as always this is very all over the place. I read a bunch of different genres, but I think the biggest surprise here is that contemporary is now my biggest. I will say there's a couple in contemporary that, you could probably subcategorize into like coming of age or romance or stuff like that, but overall contemporary is now my biggest genre, which I just would not expect that at all for myself. Like, I always think of myself as being like classics and then fantasy and then kind of maybe even horror before contemporary, but the facts don't lie. The facts do not lie. So as you can see, I've read 14 contemporary books, 12 fantasy, 8 historical fiction, 5 horror, 4 dystopian, 4 erotica, which was the 50 Shades of Grey series, and then a couple of other things throughout. We have 5 poetry books actually. I'm really loving poetry this year, just recently, over the last couple of years actually. I don't know what it is about poetry. It just, you're in the mood for it sometimes. Like, when you don't want to read it, you don't, but then when you do, like, I just love reading poetry, even if I don't always understand it. So that is my genre breakdown. 23% of the books are contemporary, 20% are fantasy, which, I'm just so surprised contemporary is actually more than fantasy, but I guess the world is changing. Okay, and then next we have one of my goals. So, as you know, I want to read at least one self-published book every single month, and so far this year I've read 4 self-published books, which is a total of 6.7% of my reading. That's not really that good. I mean, it's only 2 less than what I should be at, but the 12 is kind of like the bottom floor. Like, I've always kind of wanted, like, okay, at least 12, but preferably, like 18 maybe. So I'm lacking a little bit behind in that, but it is something that I can look towards for the second half of this year. Next, we have which books were rereads and which were first time reads. And I've only actually reread 5 books, and I think they were all, for the most part, some Harry Potter books. And then 55 of my books were new to me this year. Then we have my gender breakdown, and this was very surprising when I done this because I read 24 male authors and 24 female authors, and then 2 books which were a male and a female author like working together. So I did not aim for that at all. Like, I did not try to make this so even. Like, obviously I'm really happy about it, but I was like, that's very strange. Not strange, just, 24 and 24, you know what I mean. So if I can keep that up, pretty happy with that, but obviously I'm not gonna like force myself like to read like one male, one female, one male, one female. And then my final one, and also one of my other goals, which I'm actually really proud of. So I always aim to read a bunch of different countries and also at least one book or one author per month from Scotland. So preferably like multiple books from those authors, but at least like 12 new authors, or just 12 authors from Scotland throughout the year. And so far I've read 8 Scottish authors this year, and obviously there's only 6 months, so I'm really happy with that. I'm ahead of that goal. Overall, I'm not doing the best with reading from a bunch of other countries. USA is still 44%, which is a decent amount, but it is less than half, so I'm pretty happy with that, especially because my Scotland amount is so high, it's 16%, and I've got a bunch of other countries mixed in there, countries I've never read authors from before, such as Mauritius and Ukraine. I don't think I've ever read anything from authors from there before, same for Poland, so I'm really getting out there, trying different things, and I just want to keep that up and just keep reading more international authors. Something I really want to aim on in the second half this year, I want to read some more books from African authors, because Mauritius is from Africa, but that's only one so far, and more Asian countries as well. And even though I'm being diverse, it's not all just USA, it's still pretty Eurocentric now. So, I want to spread it around, read a bit of everything. Australian authors, I read a book by an Australian author last year called Boy Swallows Universe, I think it was, and that was like one of my top 10 books, I'm pretty sure, from what I remember. So I need to read more Australian authors and just overall read from a bunch of different countries. But that was all my statistics. So I think overall I'm doing okay with my goals. I'm obviously smashing the Scotland one, doing pretty decent with my reading from different countries one, and my self-published authors isn't the best. That could use some improvement, but overall I'm pretty happy with my statistics. If you do videos like this, please let me know. I love statistic videos. I'd love to watch yours. And also, if you have any thoughts on any of the stuff I talked about in this video, leave them down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and please subscribe for more videos. This is my 3rd video I'm filming this week, so I am on a roll. We'll see how things go. Hopefully I keep it up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.